And for a look at the mayoral by-election so far, we're joined by Will Stewart, Vice President, Hill Knowlton Strategies. And Will, thank you very much for joining us this morning. So we have 3 weeks here. You know, we just heard some endorsements. What do these endorsements mean, 3 weeks out from Election Day?
Yeah, well, I mean, at this point in the campaign, I think everybody's trying to show a little bit of momentum. They want to show a little bit of polling results. They want to have a quote-unquote win at a mayoral debate. And, of course, part of that is also endorsements. We saw a few this week, one out for Anthony Furey, of course, a high-profile endorsement from John Baird, a very well-known member of the Conservative Party, Harper's cabinet. And, of course, we saw some today with the Liberals as well coming out. So it's quite interesting. That momentum is really where we are in the campaign, that process at this point in time.
Okay, and along with that, what are we going to see in terms of messaging? Are you expecting, the candidates to change anything? We've heard violence, we've heard the TTC, we've heard traffic, we've heard rent, we've heard housing. Will any of that change?
It doesn't feel so at this point. I mean, those seem to be the campaign narratives that people are talking about. It's what the candidates are speaking about as well. In campaigns like this is really sales mode, not governing mode. So we have to keep that in mind. They're going to hit on the key issues. And why are those the key issues? They believe that those are the issues that the people of Toronto are talking about, but also that where they can drive a differentiation between them and one of their rival candidates. Because again, at this point in the race, we really need to see the differences between the candidates. And we call those wedges. And in elections, really wedges are what we discuss, not governance. We discuss the points of difference between the campaigns and the candidates. And that's where we are certainly on housing and taxes right now when it comes to different groups of the mayoralty pool.
Okay, speaking of, the competitors here, during the last debate, we saw a lot of the candidates all taking aim at Olivia Chow. When that happens, they don't get a chance to actually differentiate themselves. Are we going to see any more of that, as we get closer to the day to cast the votes?
It's quite funny. Olivia Chow, of course, is most aligned with the NDP if we're looking traditional party politics here. And, frequently the NDP and the Liberals talk in election campaigns about an ABC campaign, vote anyone but Conservative. In this instance, it's kind of funny. We are seeing the emergence of an ABC campaign here in the city of Toronto. But in this instance, it's anyone but Chow. And that's really what we saw in the debate earlier this week, where people, particularly Mark Saunders in the clip that you just played, really taking issue with Olivia Chow saying she's going to increase taxes, but not saying how much she's going to increase those taxes by. And they're trying to drive on that wedge, saying a vote for Olivia Chow is a blank check. It's an irresponsible decision because we don't actually know what type of spending she's going to do. Having said that, she answered the questions very, very well. She handled herself very well, and it seemed to come out unscathed at this point if we look at the most recent public opinion polling.
So this has been, a pretty crowded race. I think it's easy to say that. Let's talk about messaging throughout this campaign. Who do you think's done a pretty good job, and who do you think could do a better job?
Well, obviously, Anthony Furey is doing a good job on his campaign. I mean, we don't see much change in the narratives and the polling at this point, but we are seeing him start to creep up. On the other hand, we have to give a hat tip to Olivia Chow, although I would argue she really hasn't been articulating policy. She hasn't been leaning into the problems that Toronto is facing. But that's also a traditional front-runner campaign. That's what you do when you are the perceived front-runner. You try to make sure you solidify your base, don't say anything that ticks off people who may be thinking about voting for you, and trying not to lose support at this point, not necessarily gain new supporters. That's the differentiated campaign that Chow's team is running at this point.
Will Stewart, Vice President, Hill Knowlton Strategies, taking time to speak with us on this Saturday morning. We appreciate it. Thanks a lot, Will.
Thanks for having me.